What's up, fellows? Really hope this works. It's like the fifth movement of camera setup. Avengers Endgame and the gospel. Let's talk about it. This is Kevin at Cross Culture Christian, helping you cross the gap between your life and the good life. And I try to do this by making videos that can help you see things in culture through the lens of Christ. So like me, if you are mad at arrogant Christianity and want to know how to meaningfully engage with the cultures around you so that you can think well, live well, and love well, then you're in the right place. Okay, so if you have not seen the Endgame yet, do not watch this video. Spoilers are everywhere. Like what? 3,000 of them. Actually, feel free to check out this spoiler-free Marvel-related video if you're still interested in, the things that I've talked about when it comes to the MCU and the gospel and all that stuff. I think I'm gonna put it maybe here or somewhere. Just check it out. But if you have seen it, please, my friend, take several seats. I want to share with you really quick 5 parallels between the Endgame and the gospel-centered worldview. Now, this video might be a little long, so if you are like me and you're like a scrubber of videos where you just kind of want to just get through to the points or whatever, I've included the timestamps in the description down below, so just kind of check it out and click on them and so that you can jump to the actual points. You're welcome. All right, let's go. So it's always a fun conversation when someone asks me the question, Pastor Kevin or Kevin, what is the Bible all about? One of my go-to responses is that the Bible is basically a story about this God interacting with humans. And just like the elements of any story, this ongoing story also has an exposition, conflict, climax, and resolution. But the Bible is a story of many different stories. Both the Old and the New Testament contain a lot of little stories, which when seen within the frame of a larger story, makes a whole lot of sense. Just like the MCU. Including the Endgame, there are 22 movies within the MCU. Now, you can either watch these movies as standalone movies, because each of them have their own setting, their plot, and their climax, or you can watch them as a series, where each individual movie finds meaning and significance when seen within the larger frame or the story of the MCU. Are you getting what I am getting at? So when it comes to the gospel-centered worldview, consider the larger story of the Bible as the MCU, and the different stories within the Bible as the different movies of the MCU, which ultimately point to this larger story. Point number 2. That Hawkeye Black Widow scene, bruh, so good. On a purely cinematic perspective, I just loved how the MCU developed these characters. When you see them from where they started off and where they ended, I just really like the story arc of both Hawkeye and the Black Widow. Now, when it comes to these two guys, we have, for all their powers that they have, these people are human. They come into the MCU with baggage, with trauma, with histories that are tainted with violence and abuse and hurt. But the beautiful thing is that the traumas that they've faced and the things that they've gone through really impact their friendship with each other, to the point where they literally fight to save the other person's life. I think this is probably a fairly good case study on what biblical Christian love should look like. Especially here in the West, we live in a cultural moment right now where love is either oversimplified to mere sentimentality or feelings, or over-amplified to a religion where you become your own God. Where your version of what love is should be the standard by which you gauge or judge the other versions of love. In contrast, the gospel-oriented love is a way of life that fully confronts the messiness of reality and the messiness of human stories, and still opts to choose the goodwill of the other, even if it costs you. Jesus himself, the founder of the way himself, he said this, that greater love has no man than this, or no woman than this, than to lay down his or her life for his or her friend. And so, at least theoretically, the people who follow the way of Jesus should be known and recognized as the greatest lovers on this planet. On the topic of fight scenes, let's talk about that final fight scene. Point number 3. I think that final fight scene was probably one of the most memorable showdowns in the history of film. It's one of those scenes where you get goosebumpy pimples. Goosebumpy pimples? Is that a thing? Goose pimples. Geese. So check this out. I'm stoked for this point. So remember that part where Cap is just about to get pulverized by Thanos and he gets this voice message. And the Falcon says, "Can you hear me on your left?" And then my dude, Black Panther, walks through the portal with Okoye and Shuri. Yo, I was like I just like pretty much screamed at the movie theater, but you don't want to do that. In all seriousness though, when I saw the fallen Avengers come through the portals, man, it just reminded me of the Christian belief of the resurrection. It gave me a little glimpse of this gospel-centered hope that we have in being reunited with our loved ones. According to my dude Paul, who was responsible for much of the New Testament, he says that because of the bodily resurrection of Jesus Christ from the dead, we too, Christians, followers of the way here today, right now, also have the hope of a bodily resurrection, where mortality puts on immortality, where we are reintegrated and reintroduced to a reality where there's no more pain, no more brokenness, and no more death. Honestly, some days, the only thing that keeps me going in this Christian journey is this hope of seeing my loved ones. I lost my grandma recently. I lost friends, the last couple of years, man. And just the mere thought of getting to see them once again, I just cannot explain it. It's just this motivating force, man, to just live the best life possible here today and to stay close to Jesus. This hope that we have is so powerful, to the point where Paul says that if Jesus did not raise from the dead, people who follow Jesus today would probably be the most pitiful people on the planet. Talking about following Jesus today, this next point is crucial. Point number 4. I really enjoyed how Marvel showcased the one-on-one relationships within the MCU. For example, we got the sibling rivalry between Thor and Loki. I loved how Loki goes from being this antagonist, right, in the first Thor movies, to kind of this weird pseudo protagonist where we begin to love him and like him a lot. Then we get the Thor-Hulk relationship, where Thor redeems Hulk in Ragnarok, and then Hulk redeems Thor in Endgame. We talked about the Black Widow and Hawkeye, that relationship. Awesome. Doctor Strange and the Ancient One. And of course, the complicated, and amazing relationship between Captain America and Iron Man. Yes, when we think of the Avengers, we instinctively think of them as this one big, giant, conglomerate unit. But in reality, the Avengers are a community of smaller one-on-one communities that give its character and effectiveness and messiness that just makes up the whole story. And these one-on-one relationships are super important because if we don't have them, then the story flattens. Also, we don't get to journey with these characters throughout the MCU, through each different movie. And to be honest, if we don't get to do that, we won't be as invested as we are in the MCU. You know what this reminds me of? This whole dynamic between one-on-one relationships and the church. Too often, especially us Christians, when we think of the church, we usually tend to think of it as this big, giant unit, right? That's spread across the globe. And that's not entirely wrong, as long as we resist the urge to critique it as one big, giant unit. Because what we call the church, the body of believers, the followers of the way today in the 21st century spread across the globe, are basically made up of these one-on-one relationships. Part of the challenge is that most Christians tend to conflate the institution of the church with its denomination-specific policies, its governance, its administrative structure, with the individuals of the church, the people, the problems, the messiness, the culture, the feelings, the thoughts, the skin and the blood, the flesh of the church. The point that I'm trying to make is that in order to have a nuanced, balanced, and considerate conversation about the church, we must factor in these one-on-one complex relationships that make up this thing called the church. This is what this practically looks like. Whenever someone starts a sentence by saying the church is, they may not mean this, but automatically you are generalizing one massive big unit. And so your critique or your opinion may be at risk of being either naive, inaccurate, or narrow-minded. Now, you may not mean that, but that's kind of how it comes across. It's kind of like saying all Sri Lankans are... Actually, no, you probably might be right, if you just say that. JK. Sri Lankans, if you're Sri Lankan, bless your heart, you're awesome. Anywhoosies. But the thing is, the reason why some people are mad at church is because they are mad at a conversation that they had. They are probably negatively impacted by a relationship within a church. They were probably hurt by somebody they trusted in the church. So it usually boils down to these one-on-one relationships, or even a committee or smaller subset within the church. And just because I had an unfortunate experience with somebody within the church does not mean that the church itself is messed up. Okay, almost done. Last point number 5. Iron Man. Let's talk about it. I mean, did you see that coming? Like, I thought Captain America was gonna die because they were gonna retire him within the MCU and stuff. But I did not expect Iron Man to die. Actually, leave a comment down below if your prediction came true. Yeah, even though they didn't kill off Captain America, I actually liked what they did to him. Then passing off the mantle to Falcon. Ooh, so many things there about reconciliation and all that stuff. But today's not the time to talk about it. We have to keep going. I'm almost done. Watch. Here's the point. You ready? Iron Man leveraged the very thing that was designed to destroy the universe to save it. And he does that by sacrificing his life for the universe. You like that? Cheesy? I like that. I think that's super cool. You see, the cross was meant to be the enemy's last-ditch effort to destroy all of humanity, to dismantle the plan of redemption. But on the cross, Jesus absorbed the ugliness of sin, the full effect of it onto himself, letting it destroy him. And unlike Iron Man's death, which signaled victory to the human race, Jesus' death actually signaled defeat. But at least at the outset, what seemed to be the end game for Jesus was actually the beginning for humanity. Because 3 days later, Jesus defeated death, beginning an entirely new universe with new possibilities. Love it. Ooh, got through those 5 points real quick. Honestly, I had like a lot more. I just had to distill it down to 5 points. Hey, if you've stuck around this far, feel free to do all the YouTube things. You know, you'll make me happy. Not just that, but you'll help me, get this content out to as many people as possible. I'm just a regular follower of Jesus, trying to do what I can to inspire other people to see culture and see the things around them through a Christian lens. So yeah, hit that like button, share, subscribe, do what you need to do. Also, are there any other cultural artifacts that you like? Movies, music, media, news items, whatever, that you want me to explore from a Christian perspective? Yeah, leave a comment down below. People, please do. I would love to, just take something from culture and look at it from a Christian perspective and then give you a bunch of heresies. Till then, this is Kevin at Cross Culture Christian, helping you cross the gap between your life and the good life. Take care, and God bless. Yes! Yes. Yeah, the problem with Sony cameras is that they just overheat and they just shut down, and I don't even know if it's just still rolling. This is like my second or third time doing this. Like I said, if you've stuck around this far, just hit that like button or something. I don't know. Honestly, if you don't want to do anything, it's fine. Whatever. Just thank you for watching. Really appreciate you. You were awesome. You're really, really cool. Yeah.